So we actually have a variety of programs for the Esports Association. One is career readiness. So we actually work with the Career Center here to better prepare our association members to learn those life skills that they are going to need so that when they make that transition over to a career pathway.
Awesome. This guy, we gotta turn around. This guy wins almost every tournament we throw. I'm telling you. We gotta watch him live. He's gonna be something big.
CSUDH Esports Association is centered in 4 domains: academics and research, community engagement, competition, and entertainment.
We're trying to make sure that the students are prepared for the future, that they understand the diversity that media offers now, and again, look beyond the traditional outlets.
They can gain fieldwork, partnerships, as well as potential job opportunities and in both the higher education and K-12 fields.
We believe that esports is a strategy and not an outcome. Our association is here to help anyone that is willing to learn how to take your gaming skills to the next level through a supporting community. If you are looking to showcase your production talents to help support our esports teams, then this is the association for you. We host online and on-site tournaments that will allow our members to showcase their competitive spirit. Our association broadcasts out our competition and practices to entertain our community as well as our global audience. We believe that by joining us, you will come out of the association feeling transformed and better prepared to transfer your skills into your career. Join today and begin to explore endless opportunities through our Esports Association here at Cal State Dominguez Hills.
I got a squad on my right.
Running in for backup.
Yo, Ron, he's right there in front of you.
Sorry guys, it happened again.
Damn, that's one today.
All right, I'm back.
Someone cover me.
You got him. Yo, that's sweet.
Yeah, it is. We about to win this.
I can get used to this.
HyperX Alloy. Built strong because it has to be.
Located in the heart of Los Angeles, one of the most culturally diverse cities in the U.S., Children's Hospital Los Angeles welcomes children and families from all over the world. With over 350 pediatric specialty programs and services, Children's Hospital Los Angeles is consistently ranked among the top programs by U.S. News and World Report. Our physicians include nationally and internationally renowned experts in their fields, working alongside our care teams, all with a single mission: to do everything we can to create hope and build a healthier future for your child. Home to the Saban Research Institute at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, the finest minds in the world come together to drive discoveries and find leading-edge cures for children everywhere. Here, your child comes first. Every aspect of our hospital is designed with patients and families in mind, from X-ray machines that use less radiation to play spaces that let your child be a child. We understand your child's health condition might lead you to seek the best care outside your own country. That's why Children's Hospital Los Angeles' Center for Global Health is here to help. We are your home away from home. The Center for Global Health offers international families one point of contact to facilitate seamless, culturally sensitive care for hundreds of children from more than 75 countries. It's a place of hope, healing, and compassion. Children's Hospital Los Angeles, creating hope and building healthier futures around the world.
moderator, Ruben Caputo from CSUDH Esports, and today's talk session is called Taking Care of Your Health in Esports. But before I introduce our special guest, I do want to share a couple of quick announcements. And first of all, is to thank you, the viewers, our community. Without you, none of this is possible. In our channel descriptions below, you'll see there's various social media outlets. They all help us to essentially keep growing the community that we've established here. Other news too is that all of our streams are all dedicated to our partner in Extra Life. So this is the foundation that we help and support. So any effort that you may give and in kind is truly greatly appreciated. All of this is to support the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. Also, we cannot forget our awesome and amazing partners in HyperX. They are our official gaming peripheral partner. This particular microphone that you see here is the HyperX Quadcast HX Mic QC. And if you're looking to locate one, you'll find it in the description below. Fantastic. Without any further ado, I am happy to introduce to you all our special guest. We have Jonathan Moe, one of our very own, who comes from our health and wellness division, joining us today. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ruben.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love the work that you're doing with our program, and really want to get into diving deep into the subject matter. But before we do any of that, just need to know a little bit more of your background. Share with our community some of your gaming experience, if you don't mind.
We'll start with gaming experience. If you'll notice behind me, I just set my wallpaper to Diablo 2. I would say, I guess it is my favorite game. I spent quite a long time playing it, and I have to honestly tell you guys, I failed math. I failed algebra 2 because of this game. So it's got some trauma, but it's got some achievements in it too. I grew up with a lot of friends that played games, so I was that type that watched over your shoulder. But I hopefully wasn't that annoying type of person that watched over your shoulder, but someone that kind of gave you extra motivation to play and just to explain the story plot to me. And I just really liked watching, especially one of my best friends just play games. So I've seen him play all sorts of games. Diablo 2 was where I really went in, and I play more Blizzard games. So that's where I stay. But, I don't play as much. But, again, I do see that there's a lot of potential for health and wellness, any type of just helping some of the students out, because gaming is becoming just as popular as any other sport out there.
No, right on. And thank you for sharing. Again, a lot of the interest really derives from our childhood, right? It's almost like it becomes nostalgic, especially as we get older and now move into our professions. Right. And we get to, when do we get a chance to actually talk about our favorites, right? Our favorite moments in the game, or our throwback days when we were playing with our friends and until wee hours of the night. But but what you shared though, I mean, I love what you mentioned about, you provided extra motivation, and again, in the spaces of health, especially promoting, longevity of how to take care of oneself. That's important. And so it's really to provide motivation in those aspects. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit, what is it that you do specifically in the health and wellness division?
Okay, so just for some background, I am an occupational therapist. I did graduate with a master's from Dominguez Hills in 2016. So right now, me working with Ruben, with CSUDH Esports, my goal right now is to help establish some type of framework, some type of foundation. I know Ruben's bringing all of us up, but me and a few other people, we're trying to see if we can get kind of the health and wellness division side set up. So what that could be is anything as easy as just taking breaks, outlining certain stretches, exercises, talking about vision, talking about diet. I think more importantly, though, for a lot of these student gamers is that work-life balance. And I think if we can get that, then gaming will serve as an outlet, and it won't be so much as a stressor because that's what school is too. So I think the work-life balance is going to be real important. And all of us have known what it was like to be a student, and so again, gaming is it's normalized now, and so there's going to be a lot of potential there to help people kind of maximize their ability in gaming.
Yeah, right on. And thank you for sharing that. Again, in occupational therapy, it came from, homegrown here at
Right.
Castle Dominguez Hills.
Right.
And again, what is it that you've noticed that has transitioned a lot of attention, aside from, yes, there's been growth in spaces like gaming, but
Right.
what really met that rubber meets the road kind of deal where, hey, your profession, your concentration is now pursuing areas to help our fellow gamers that are essentially starting to feel, aches and pains in areas that perhaps have been preventing them from performing. What exactly led you to essentially start pursuing esports?
Okay, that's a good question. I maybe a year or 2 years ago, I was working in hand therapy, so I was helping those who maybe were injured at work. Um, maybe they had a fall, and so I specialize basically rehab from the fingertips all the way up to your neck. And so I was working in Santa Monica hand therapy, and sometimes they would get gamers that would come in. And you know what? Unfortunately, I never got to work with one, but that got me thinking that a lot of this is postural. A lot of this is I guess that's when I started just kind of knocking around the doors and saying, "Hey, is there any way I can help?" And it was never for me more of a monetary thing. I think I have an interest in preventative health. It's just like being healthy. I'm like one of those guys. And I was in hand therapy, and gaming was getting so big. I mean, I've been singing gaming all my life, basically. And I saw the potential there. There were people coming up too, so I saw it online. And so I figured it was a bit difficult to get into, let's say, like a professional team. And so I said, okay, well, why don't I knock around Cal State, like CSUs and UCs? And guess what? The thing was, some people straight out said, oh, we already have that set up, so don't worry about it. We have PTs. We have our whole PT department on it. And so that was frustrating, but it's also encouraging because that's the potential. Why is everyone looking at this? It's because well, first of all, there's money involved, right? These teams get a lot of sponsorships, and so if you want to have your players play to the best of their ability as well as longevity, like you talked about, you will have to you have to bring in other services. Look, LeBron is he's in his late 30s. He's playing for Lakers now, and he still wants a ring, and he spends, reportedly over $1 million a year. So it's not fair for us to say you guys spend $1 million, but you can see where the best of the best are going. Football players the same, and so you can see that that's where eventually you want to go. Even with UFC back then, I know I'm going on a rant, but with UFC, back then they didn't. There was no smart sparring. You actually just knock out people during your sparring. So a lot of people left their careers just in the ring without even stepping foot in the UFC. They knocked each other out. So all that concussion, it doesn't really build you up for competing. And so nowadays, the new mindset for even UFC or some type of mixed martial arts is to do it every day, but without burning out. So maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, where you just really hone in on something. So you get really good at it, but you never get sore. You never mentally or neurologically get tired. And so that means that person can train maybe 5 days over a week versus if I grinded out maybe 1 or 2 hard days, 2 days a week. So if you do the math, then he gets accumulation of just more sessions in, whether it be MMA, sports, gaming, it just doesn't matter. That's kind of like the new meta, the new philosophy a lot of people are going with. And so if there's any way that I can kind of encourage maybe our association or other people to just think about it, that we're bringing in a lot of pieces from sports and research and psychology into all this, and it's only to benefit.
Yeah, no, I love that, Jonathan. I mean, gosh, and for those that are listening in, I love what you shared too. It's in traditional sports, we put a lot of attention in these areas and fields, and
Right.
occupational therapy, there's huge influence in these specific areas. But again, transition, esports has been a growing industry. I mean,
Yes.
if you don't know,
Yes.
just Google search anywhere and you'll learn how fast it's growing. And again, the efforts, it's great to hear that institutions are looking into dedicating departments around it.
Mm-hmm.
But like you mentioned, it's really this next wave of where the movement of health is now starting to transition, meeting esports.
Yep.
And for those that are listening that are perhaps pursuing occupational therapy today, start encouraging to start thinking about, hey, esports has a pathway to essentially help out, people that are, not necessarily just competing in the competitive spaces, but also the other aspects like the production work. You
True.
mentioned something so key. It's
True.
postural, right? It's the
Yes, yes.
postures, as if we're sitting upright and things of that nature. And many of it is, yeah, we're there is a seat, you're going to be using it. But what other key exercises and how you train to be in a sedentary space is very important, because you do need to promote movement and oxygen and things of that nature that, again, informs the longevity of someone. Because quite honestly, what you do in transition afterwards, if that transition is to essentially go back to an office and to sit more, I think these are great skills to start adopting, whether you're competing or not, so it
Exactly.
becomes long lasting for the durability of one's benefit in physical shape, and like you said, even mentally too. But yeah, I mean, maybe Jonathan, if you don't mind, just walking us through some of the key like notabilities that you've noticed, especially in the world of esports and gaming, that have been reported to be, prime injuries that are very common.
Yeah. Well, when I was working in hand therapy, I thought it was just going to be carpal tunnel right away. Some compression of nerve that causes numbness in your thumb, fingertips, and you kind of shake it out. But actually, when I did the research, it is more postural. A lot of complaints about eye fatigue, and so that one might be more obvious nowadays with the whole fact that there's a lot of there's this need for a blue filter glasses or lenses, or even the screen can kind of block out some of that blue light that people contribute to fatigue or also messing up your sleep at night. Those are, yeah, maybe eye fatigue, neck, sitting for too long, how your leg sometimes goes to sleep, tight hips, and the fact that when you are clicking hundreds of times per minute, or you're doing really micro movements over and over and over again, I mean that is wear and tear on your body. And so people might think it's unconventional, but again, if you play games, it's a sport. It's just a sport where you're sitting. But if you measure the heart rate, you measure the amount of time someone's clicking. If you look at the hand-eye coordination, you look at the teamwork, it's basically an athlete. So it's just a different sport. That's the same thing as if it's basketball player, they're going to have different injuries than someone who does, the horseback riding. They're going to have different injuries. So again, this is just more of a new area, but that's where I've noticed if you could just compare it closer to an office worker and the type of injuries they have, and they have tons. That's where I worked, workers' comp. They all get injured because they're typing all day. So that's, I think, the closest resemblance to, if you guys need something to picture in terms of common injuries. And then, if you don't deal with those, it adds up. So you get carpal tunnel surgery, which hopefully that works out for you. But there's, a whole variety of injuries that can come. But I think closest to, gaming would be an office worker, and people do get injured. It's not an easy thing. It's easy in terms of maybe the weight that you have to carry, but the repetitiveness is not something our body is built for. So hopefully slowing down, taking breaks, all these things that we want to implement can prolong everyone's career in gaming or also just outside of gaming.
Right on, Jonathan. And, thank you for sharing that. Again, one of the things I heard, and again, just slowing it down, just for anyone that's just listening in, it's almost like the injuries that occur from a lot of repetition.
Yes, it is.
It's almost like if you get injured, the signals that your body was perhaps sending you were either just not acknowledged soon enough. They were throwing you signals, but now you're finally having to look at it. But now it's in a fashion where it's too late. The injury already occurred, and now we
I
have
like
to
that.
move into
Sure.
the zoning of recovery.
Sure, you can say that. And then, though, games are real fun, even on the addicting side.
Mm,
So people will ignore symptoms, or if you were an office worker, you have to ignore the symptoms because you have a deadline, because
mm,
you feel real stress because you're micromanaged, something
mm.
like that.
Yeah, no, and these are all great points that you're making. I think many of us can relate on a day to day. And like you said, games were designed, yes, to have fun,
Yeah.
and whether you're playing, esport games or you're playing casual games or you're playing traditional sport games, there's a level of fun, there's a level of engagement,
Right.
and there is no, hey, let's take a break all the time messages happening. And
No, not that I
what we
know of.
do in our own time to typically equates to how much interest you have, and if you're putting enough output where the muscles are going to get fatigued. But you
Right.
said something really key, for those that are, in the spaces of casual gaming or considering to move into competitive spaces, whether it's collegiate, whether it's
Mm,
semi-pro,
mm,
whether it is in the pros, is that, the eye fatigue is key, and how much it affects things like how we're going to rest at night,
mm-hmm,
if we're ready to get a good night's rest to reset.
mm-hmm.
But it's these injuries don't necessarily come about in these catastrophic ways.
No, exactly.
The signals are there, and I think for many of us that are listening, I think we can all relate, right? Like, oh man, my wrist is hurting, or my thumb or my one of my fingers is just been aching lately. Those
Right.
are all symptoms. And now once you feel the symptoms, now this is a question for you, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is the first thing you should prepare to do if you can't necessarily rush to a doctor?
Oh yeah, I mean, if it's serious, then that is the course that you have to go. But I mean, in general, if it's not something that is raises to the level of a doctor's concern, I mean, first thing you want to do is kind of just you want to feel out. I don't want to get too deep, but I mean, let's say if it's your wrist, then you can kind of monitor, right? Let's say you already lost in the game, so you're loading up again. So what you can do is you can kind of just feel out the wrist. So is it going into what we call flexion that bothers you? Is it at end range, like at the end? Ah, yeah, that does pull. But when it hurts in that motion, where is the pain? Is it on the lower side or is it on the top side? Um, Maybe for our listeners, they might not be able to diagnose, and I'm not allowed to diagnose too. That's reserved only for the doctors. But these are just some ways where you can get more familiar with the terms. So if you ever have to explain it to someone, you'll know right away, right? So you can kind of check out the motion and figure out what type of motion is aggravated. If you think about it, that does make sense. Or also, you have to remember the wrist can also go into radial and ulnar deviation. So you want to monitor it. But first and foremost, you probably just want to, like, take a break, and you can try ice, you can try heat. I always just try to slow people down because it's hard for them to step on the brake and pull up the e-brake. But I just want you to slow down. I just want to put some speed bumps so you slow down. So your car, the engine, this is my analogy, the car engine doesn't overheat. Because when it overheats, then you still have to race or you still have to drive it. But every time you drive 20 minutes, it overheats again. So then you'll go down that type of pattern. Again, unless you're a superhuman, LeBron, certain people who never seem to get injured. It's true, there are anomalies out there or outliers, but most of us aren't. And so the information that I try to give is more, for the ones that, for us, not the outliers.
No, right on. And true. Even though there's some anomalies out there, I think even
Right?
for the anomalies, it's good for them to at least know terms, definitions to
Sure.
describe. And thank you for sharing that. Again, that's what the essence of all of this is to help us finding ways to keep our health intact, right? It's
Yes.
hard to explain to someone
Yes.
what's bothering you if you don't know how to explain it.
That's that's true, especially with the shoulder. You know, a lot of times when I'm working on someone's shoulder, I say, so is it when I ask them to start moving and they're lying down, it's very hard for them to be aware of the shoulder position or basically where their shoulder blade is at. So yeah, it's very true. I think you have a good point with that. So, you know, that's where I would start. Um, but yeah, I mean, it just depends on the person too, I guess.
No, right on, right on. And I'll ask this quick question before we go on a break.
Sure.
So, now that again, you go through this process, you're playing games, you start feeling the aches. Now you're needing to describe it. What does that recovery process look like? Is it that, hey, you really have to stop gaming completely and you just have to stop cold turkey in a way? Or do you find yourself thinking, hey, there's a proper diagnostic to balance your way to get back into it integratively, where you're now doing movements like you mentioned, micro movements, but that are maybe perhaps changing so that way it doesn't accelerate the pace of perhaps an injury?
I like that. The question is really big because it's going to depend on that person. I can't tell an Olympian, you know, the Tokyo Olympics coming up, like, you know, why don't you just cool off for a month, 4 weeks? Give the time, give the bone, give, you know, blah, 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 that time to rest. I think that's going to be hard. So again, I want to talk about who our audience is. I believe most of them are going to be student gamers. I think in terms of the timeline, if it's something serious, again, you have to check with the doctor and they're going to have a better understanding of what's going on and give you a better timeline. But from the rehab perspective, for someone who's kind of doing when someone's actually injured and I see them and I follow them a course of a few weeks to a few months, I think it takes weeks. That's what I will say. But most people don't have weeks, even when they're working. And so when you're asking for what are some ways, if you're starting to get injured, what are some ways to kind of get back on the right track, even if you have to continue what you have to do? Again, that brings me to the point that other sports, you know, I've been keeping my eye on them, like with the UFC. Again, what they do is they don't overtrain, but they train every day, but they never go into exhaustion. So you're excited. So it's like gaming. You're looking forward to the games because I didn't have you play 20 games back to back. I only had you play 7 games. 2 games maybe to warm up, but 7 games, and that's it. I cut off your computer. So the next day you get to play 7 again. You're not playing 20 back to back, grinding it out. So you're never really that tired. So again, if someone was more on the injured path, then what we do is we probably taper it. My suggestion, I guess, right now to someone would be start tapering or shortening how much you're doing and see if that makes a difference. And if it doesn't, then maybe you have to do something a little more drastic.
I love that. Gosh, we're going to have to pick that up. But before anything, don't go anywhere, anyone. And we will see you right after this commercial break.
All right, I'm ready.
Let's do this.
Time to farm some dubs. Crap, I got a squad on my right. Yo, Ron, he's right there in front of you.
Oh, sorry, guys, it happened again.
Damn. This is the 10th one today.
All right, I'm back.
Someone cover me.
Yeah, I see you. You got him, you got him, you got him! Yes! Yo, that's sweet.
Yeah, it is. We about to win this.
Guys, I can get used to this.
HyperX Alloy. Built strong because it has to be.
All right. For those who are just joining us, in case you missed it, I just recommend for you to wait until the very end and rewatch the whole episode. But we are learning a ton on the topic of taking care of your health in esports. We have Jonathan Moe here with us. He's an occupational therapist and part of our health and wellness division. And Jonathan, I mean, we were talking, just moments ago, and I really love how you shared that to our audience that was listening in. Is if you are in the injured path, it's not necessarily, you're quitting for 1 month out of the time. There is ways to taper that, so that the activity is not lost and it's more forgiven, in the sense that you're recovering, but you're still also in that space and sphere of still practicing, whether it's to get better in skill sets or team development, but you're still in there. But I love what you shared, because I think for many, the immediate answer is, oh, you don't need to see a doctor. Let's get you out for a month or two and you'll be fine and better. But like you said, not everybody has a month or two to like just give away. How do I integrate myself back, and how do I know I'm even ready to go back? So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about what that looks like as far as the strategy to getting back into the road of recovery, and also going back to doing something that, quite frankly, we do as a sport that we love.
Yeah. I have an example I was thinking about, but it's not going to be sport or e-sport oriented. When I was doing hand therapy, one of actually the locations I was working at, and I'm going to apologize, there is a train in the background, so if you do hear that, that's on me. It's coming around. So back to the topic, my example of someone being injured and their time frame was actually the janitor at LA Fitness. So I was working in a hand therapy clinic inside LA Fitness, believe it or not. It was like a really cool gig. And I can kind of sneak in a workout on my own too, but if clients became stronger and more independent, that's when I can push outside the clinic into the gym and start incorporating heavier weights. Now, I'm working there, so I make friends and I get friendly with the janitor, and she's injured because I can see her wrapping something around her elbow. We call it tennis elbow, golfer's elbow. And she's mopping all the time and picking up random weights that people left around. So I guess that's an example I can kind of talk about, because she didn't really know what to do, and again, what I was telling her are just suggestions, right? I'm not a doctor, I'm not her treating therapist, but I said, oh, have you tried this? Or maybe you should go talk to the doctor and outline what is bothering you, because again, some people don't know how to describe the pain. When it comes to being injured on the job, a lot of people don't know how to phrase that to their boss because they think there might be some retaliation. And that's a difficult topic, because if you've ever been a boss, sometimes you've seen that people may say they're injured when they might not be. And so, anyways, I was basically trying to empower her into understanding what are some options for her to do. And I just, every time I saw her, I just asked her. I even gave real soft suggestions. If she's right-handed, so she mopped a certain direction. I said, look, I know it's awkward. I'll slow you down to switch. But she did, and that's when I know it hurts. When it hurts, people will listen to me. They'll change their mouse from the right side to the left when they're hurting real bad. If I catch you too early and I suggest, hey, Ruben, why don't you just flip your keyboard and flip your mouse to the left? Why don't you text with just your left hand? You're not going to listen to me. Only when the pain raises above like a 6, 7, 8, 9, people will do it. And they have to, and they will. So for her, she did it so I can then like, oh, okay, that must hurt. And when she's picking up the weight, she'll have to use her other hand. Again, there's risk that they might injure that arm, because they were never used to that type of frequency and volume. But again, focusing on one at a time, that's what I did for that client.
No, thank you for sharing, Jonathan. Those are good points, and I love hearing again from a professional aspect and hearing.
Right.
You're so right. People are more open and receptive when there is pain involved.
Yeah.
Because you don't want that pain. You want that pain to go away. You want it to, get back into recovery mode or strengthen mode. But you're right. I mean, for those that are in esports, yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm right-handed, and so yeah, I hold my mouse, with my right hand, and it's hard for me to click with my left, and even well, I do type with my left, but maybe not the fastest. people don't want to give and compromise to those things, but
So funny.
it's almost like, where do you meet the middle, right? It's like, okay, if I do this long enough, what other added treatments should one start looking for?
Right.
But it's very key and evident that when the pain it does rise above, people do change immediately.
Right.
Sorry, and I did have a quick question that just came in from chat. This is, I believe, one of our professors. Gotta love our professor, Nick Volt. All right. Okay, good question here. I'm gonna share really quickly. Do you have any thoughts about gaming chairs and how to use them appropriately? Great question. Thank you, Professor Volt.
Awesome. Yeah, good question. I think yeah, with esports, the brand names are still pretty big right now. I mean, there's certain brands that people do go to. Gaming chairs, I'm not gonna say it depends, but I gotta say it depends because let's say for the person that fielded me that question, if I gave you something real comfy, um, I can't. What if you end up sitting on it longer? So would that increase the injury, long term? Or what if I gave you a chair that's very uncomfortable, so it forced you to stand up all the time? So there's a lot of ways I can kind of play with it. But again, I can definitely provide I can provide some chairs maybe outside of after this call maybe that are standard good chairs. I wouldn't say that they're gaming chairs, but they're good good quality, and a lot of people have. It's good. It's greatly reviewed, and they kind of stand the test of time. Gaming chairs are a little fluffier in general, so they're nice in the beginning, but I think it depends on the person. It starts to become deflated. Um, so I think for me, I don't. Gaming chair is kind of, again, I think of it as like if you're an office worker, hey, John, what's the best comfortable chair for me? I'm like, hey, you can start with certain tiers. What's your budget? And then we can kind of go from there. But specifically gaming chairs, they might have kind of like that headrest. Even Ruben has one right now. So it kind of depends. If you like them, definitely get them. They're kind of very similar to if you mod your car. They have kind of that silhouette of like a car seat too. So it's cool. It's real. It's customized.
We are so sorry we lost you there for a moment. So we were back on live, but we were essentially talking about a really good question that got posed by one of our professors, and that is, what gaming chair do you recommend? And I love your response, John, about it really depends. And before we name brands or anything like that, it has a lot to do with what is your purpose in the chair, right? Are you
Right.
looking to actually be standing more?
Right.
So therefore, maybe you're not looking for the most cushiest chair possible,
Right.
because it could affect things like posture in the long run.
Right.
It's whatever that's going to prolong our health, and it's a question that really circles around in a lot of people's mind when you're thinking about, okay, if I'm going to start entering into gaming, I need to have a gaming setup. And one of the essentials is a chair. And now you're thinking, do I go with the name brand that everyone so loves and perhaps, you've seen more on more announcement ads than before, and you think that's the one I'm ready to purchase? I mean, I guess what you're saying is take a step back, slow down, see what the purpose is. Perhaps standing should be your goal more so, and having an ergonomic desk perhaps to help you with circulation, especially if you've had injuries in the past. I think that's where we have to take a lot of consideration is, what is your medical history? Only you know that best.
Right. And that would require the doctor a prescription for therapy. But to your point, first thing I thought is if I don't know the income level. I don't know how much, maybe the professor or whoever fielded the question wants to spend, but you could even start with Target, IKEA. You get a sense of what you like. Maybe you're way taller than me. You're at 6'3". Then you need a chair that adjusts. I need a chair that adjusts so my feet are flat on the ground. There are a lot of things that you need to care about. But let me bring it back to when I was at Dominguez Hills, the library chairs I thought were really good. Third, fourth, fifth floors. I think it was the second or third floor. They were mesh. Mesh means it's more comfortable. You get more ventilation. But those things can there are a lot of levers, and so it's customizable. So the more customized something is for you, the better it should be, theoretically, if someone taught you how to use the things. So the more, I don't know if I have an analogy right now, but something that's custom for you. So let's say Ruben and I probably aren't the same body type, but if we bought the same suit, it'll look different on us. But if I get it tailored, then I'm gonna look real sharp. And if he gets his tailored to his size, then it's just going to fit better for him. So I guess yeah, I'd see it that way.
Yeah, no, right on. Yeah, and if you can, right, tailor it to your
Right.
needs as much as possible,
Right.
knowing that you're
Right.
doing everything you can to prevent the injuries.
Right. And
Uh,
if you don't mind me
yeah, please.
adding one thing, so chair is a big purchase, and I'll admit I was trying to buy my brother one of these chairs that Joe Rogan, right, the podcast, one of the number one podcasters right now, he swears by. It's a chair where you sit on it and you can you can twirl it around so the your backrest is on your chest, so you can kind of lean in. It's like this real cool thing. But like the price, like it's at what, 800? It's hard to justify when I'm not sure. And so I guess a simple thing that we can start to think about is like my mouse. I remember I ordered my mouse from work. So this is my original mouse. And I got excited because work would reimburse me a mouse. So I bought one right away. Guess what? That mouse is too big. So when I use it, yeah, it's new, it's cool. But when I used it, it wasn't comfortable. So I gotta tell you, like even with mouses or mice, like just start small. Just look around with what other things you have. Even on my desk right now, I have a book stand basically. So my iPad's on there, so I don't have to crank my neck all the way down to look at my iPad. It's kind of sitting at like more of a 45-degree angle. There's a lot of ways to implement ergonomics, preventative things, preventative care. So chair is one of them. Posture is one of them. What kind of keyboard do you have? Do you have do you have like a desk where you can slide out the keyboard? So there's a lot of things because that matters. If you have a chair, but then you bang your knee each time on the table because your chair's, there has to be compatibility between all these things. So it'd be nice if we can do another session where I can outline. Yeah, I'll just go to like the library and kind of outline how tall things are and how we can adjust certain things.
Right now, absolutely. Well, Jonathan, we're coming close to that time, and typically towards the end and conclusion of our program,
we always ask the speaker to share some words of wisdom with our community. If you don't mind, perhaps sharing just some words of wisdom to take us home.
Yeah, I hope I do this right. I want to tell everyone that Ruben is the man. And a few years ago, when I did think about the opportunity of hand therapy, pairing it with ergonomics and esports, I did run around asking a lot of people, knocking on doors. And I have to say, there were quite a few gatekeepers. I understand esports is very new, right? So if it's your baby, it's your project, it can be risky to let another person with maybe similar expertise in, because what if that person does take over? What if they take your idea and then run off and start their own program? So I understand that. So I guess I'm admitting that was that was what made it difficult for me to get into the field. And so again, working with Ruben, it's never been like that. I can tell he appreciates me and gives me like, you basically give me the freedom. And I'm doing this, right? I have a full-time job, so I'm doing this because I want to do it. And I think you're doing the same too. You want to do this. And so I think these are the places that, I don't know, we actually, not that we care more, but it's more community oriented. And even where I work at my job, it's a nonprofit and it's community oriented. So I think it speaks to certain people's personalities. And so I just think this is just a great place to start. And anyone who's interested in healthcare, it just means that there's also potential for you to work in esports. Or if you're not even in healthcare, who cares? If you're into graphic designing, if you're into drawing, animation, if you're into business, esports is opening up. It still requires some networking connections, I believe, but it will become more organized, right? And I think there will be certain majors that will be heavily geared into those areas. And so I think the future for that is going to be very open. And I guess my goal here is, when I talk about health and stuff, it's not to intimidate people. It's not to guilt trip you into exercising because you have to. It's to teach you that healthcare can be like health is sexy almost in a way, or posture is sexy, something like that. Because I used to go about it in the wrong way. You know, I'll tell you to do this, do that. You're doing it wrong, but I don't think that's the right way. No one feels good from being told what to do. That's why people don't like the doctor. They don't like going to the dentist. You can get dehumanized, and so I think working with CSUDH, especially working under Ruben, I think there's a lot. It's just I feel appreciated. I feel treated like a person, and I'm going to give that back. So I think it's just going to be a good. I'm excited for the future, and I just know this is a community that I want to be a part of, even if this is not my main job.
No, right on, Jonathan. Gosh, thank you for sharing that. And honestly, you know, for me
To you too, very grateful for the work that you do for our students, for our community, and help inform, you know, others that, hey, perhaps, you know, they're a little, you know, intimidated, or perhaps they don't know what the first question may be.
Right.
And I think
Right.
if you know, had a chance to listen, Jonathan, throughout the talk session, feel free to connect with him. We'll definitely give out, you know, more ways for you to reach out.
Sure.
At the same time, you know, Jonathan, we have to have you back. There's so many more questions that I have that we haven't even touched the surface on.
Right.
So we'll have to invite you back very soon to
Awesome.
share more with our community. And without further ado, everybody, thank you so much for being with us. And we look forward to seeing you in the next talk session. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.